Almost 18 months ago, I upended my life and moved to a gently falling down cottage in the middle of the Scottish countryside. I'd never lived rurally before, had very limited DIY skills, no renovation experience, and no real idea what I was doing. On paper, it should have ended terribly, but I haven't given up yet. While I've been waiting for planning permission for the work on the cottage, I've been teaching myself DIY because it's become very clear that my original budget for the renovation is not going to cover it. It's been raining almost constantly over the last week, which means progress on my projects has been pretty slow, because even with the inside projects, I have to cut the materials for them outside. A lot of my projects are made out of reclaimed materials or leftovers, and this MDF was what was left from some shelves and a desk that I built this time last year. I don't know why I thought this wall would be straight, because I have lived here long enough to know better. This might turn out alright as long as no one looks too closely. I hate to prop up a British stereotype and talk about the weather, but it's pouring with rain, blowing a gale, and still managing to feel like -7 outside, and I would really like to stay indoors. But unfortunately, I have discovered that the chicken coop that I spent 3 months building last year has gone moldy. So instead of staying inside and fixing my fire, I need to go outside and fix that. I've spotted mould in 3 different areas. On the front exterior of the coop, which I'm baffled by, but is the least of my worries. On the underneath of the coop, and on the ceiling on the inside. And the internet seems to think there are 4 main reasons why this could be happening. 1, that I've got too many chickens in a small space. And I don't think that's a problem because I've only got 4 and it's a pretty big coop. 2, that there's a leak, which could be a problem. 3, that the ventilation is too poor. But I've got multiple vents in the coop. I've got side vents and I've got vents in the soffits on both sides. So I'm hoping that's not a problem. And 4, wet bedding. So that's what I'm going to try and tackle first. I keep my chickens on deep litter because it's supposed to help them stay warm through the winter, but if it's making the coop damp, it's gotta go. Your presence is not making my life easier right now. Hello. I'm trying to do a job. I think this must be how it feels to be housekeeping, cleaning a hotel room that the guests will not leave. And the bedding doesn't look very wet. So I don't think it's wet bedding that's the problem. The bedding seemed to be pretty dry, so that makes me think the problem might be elsewhere. I've got grand plans to build a workshop this spring, and this is starting to make me doubt myself. While I've been trying to clean out the coop and make their lives better, the chickens have been busy trying to get all of the bedding out of the wheelbarrow. I've come inside for a minute, partly for a respite from the weather and partly because I'm not sure how well you can hear me over the wind, because it is getting wild out there. There are no signs of a leak inside the coop. The ceiling isn't wet enough and there aren't any water stains. So I think it's just condensation, and that could be being caused by a couple of things. I don't think there's enough of a cross breeze with the vents, so I could put in some more. I've got 3 soffit vents on one side, 7 on the other side, and I've got 2 side vents. But I could put in a couple of vents lower down. I was hesitant to do that when I built the coop because I thought there would be a draft where the roosting bars are, but the hens don't actually use the roosting bars. I've tried to teach them, but they are happy just nesting on the ground. Apparently they are now ground nesting birds, and I think that's quite common with rescue hens. So I could put in some more vents lower down. Also, when I put the roof on, I put a layer of foil insulation underneath the metal sheeting because I thought it would stop any condensation touching the plywood. And I now know a lot more about how insulation and vapor barriers work. And if anything, that's probably made it worse. So that could be a problem, but I can't take the roof off in this weather, so it's just gonna have to stay like that for now, and I can look to fixing it at some point in the spring. It'll be a case of taking the roof sheets off and taking the insulation layer up and probably putting in a vapor barrier. I need to do a bit of research on that. And I'm not sure if the same thing is causing the floor to do the same underneath, if the vinyl flooring is making the floor go rotten with the same kind of principle. Again, I need to do a bit of research on that. If you've got any experience with that, let me know. But most people seem to say that putting vinyl flooring in a chicken coop was a really good thing. So, I mean, I can take it up, no problem at all, and I will if that's causing the problem. But it will make putting it down again tricky, so I need to double check before I do that. So in the short term, I'm just going to give it a really good clean, put some fresh bedding on it, and keep my eyes on it until the spring. But I am open to suggestions if you've got any ideas. And I've got no idea why the exterior is going mouldy, because I covered that in the same resin sealer that they use on plywood for boat making. So that's got absolutely no business going mouldy. It does kind of make me think, why do I bother? But I'm sure when I've fixed it, I will have learned something. So I'm trying to focus on that and not what did I spend 3 months building this. This is why my projects take me so long, because I start something, then something else goes wrong, and it's more important that I fix that than finish what I started. A couple of people have asked me what I'll film when I finish the house, and at this rate, that's going to take me about a decade. What do you mean your chicken coop doesn't have a dehumidifier in it? It's only temporary to try and dry out the vinegar and bring the humidity levels down from 90%, but hopefully it'll do something. Why didn't I just buy a plastic coop? Some days I seriously question all my life choices. The only thing consoling me is after 10 days of torrential rain on the back of more snow than this area's seen in over a decade, every single one of my outbuildings is leaking, apart from the chicken coop. So it might have mold in it, but it's not raining inside. And speaking of inside, that's where I'm going. I was going to use curing the fire cement as an excuse to light the fire before I'd finished it, because even with the heating on, it is really cold in my house today. But it turns out the stuff that comes in tubes sets at room temperature and doesn't need high heat to cure. So that's that excuse out the window. Even without the weather, I was never going to get my fireplace finished this week as I only had 2 days to work on it. But some weeks, any progress feels like good progress. I've decided that if I can't have a fire, I can have a roast dinner. So even though it's Tuesday and I've had to bring a heater into the kitchen because it's so cold in here, that's what's happening. My mum used to make the absolute best roast dinners. That woman cooked a roast almost every single Sunday of her entire adult life. And it turns out practice really does make perfect, because they were excellent and I really miss them. I've got kale freshly picked from the garden and some of the homegrown carrots that I've been storing in sand in the barn all winter, and they're still absolutely perfect. Set timer. 10 minutes.
10 minutes, counting down.
Yorkshire puddings might be my favourite thing about roast dinners. I can't remember how my mum used to make hers, but I found a good recipe that just makes 2. I'll leave a link in the video description. Not quite as good as my mum's, but the perfect comfort food for a stormy night. I just walked across the living room to go and get ready for bed, and the floor is squelching. It has not stopped pouring with rain for the last 10 days, and so much rain is coming down my chimney that it is oozing up through the gaps in the floor in the living room. In a few days' time, when it's stopped raining, I will hopefully be able to see the funny side. But right now, it is really, really hard. At this rate, my house is going to be mouldier than the chicken coop. And they're going to have to give me my dehumidifier back because my need is now greater than theirs. Okay. Well, we can't go to bed until this has stopped happening. Why can't we have nice things? Oh. I really need to remember that things don't usually feel quite so bleak in daylight hours. I was up until 2 o'clock trying to figure out a way of catching the water coming down the chimney before it ended up underneath the floor. And I sort of managed it using a combination of bin liners, old towels, a baking tray and a washing up bowl. It was probably about 75% successful.
But we've got a brief respite from the torrential rain today. It's currently a mild drizzle outside, and I'm really hoping it'll stay dry long enough for the fire cement that I've just redone in the gap between the hearth and the sort of base of the fire to set. So I can actually light a fire and try and dry the chimney out. All of the fire cement that I put in yesterday was completely washed out, and I did think about lighting a fire at 1 o'clock this morning to kind of hope that it would help a little bit, but I didn't want any heat getting through that gap underneath the hearth and sort of under the floor. I don't know how likely that would have been to happen, but that wasn't something I was willing to risk at 1 o'clock in the morning. So I went to bed and hoped for the best. We're forecast a lot more rain over the next few days, and I would really like to finish my fireplace before my living room turns into a swamp. See you next weekend.